Today we're going to look at replacing an alternator in an L322 3.6 litre TDV8 Range Rover. My battery was going flat after about 2 days, so I had to test it and it turns out it was fine. Then I had the alternator tested and it turns out it was only charging at 12.2 volts, where it should be charging at something over 13.6 volts. First thing is to raise the suspension, then put axle stands under either side of the car. Disconnect the battery and remove the front under tray. Locate the radiator drain at the bottom right hand corner of the radiator. Attach a hose and then open the tab. It's plastic, so be careful not to break it. Opening the radiator reservoir cap will help speed up the process. While you're waiting for the radiator to drain, remove the top intercooler hoses. Then remove the 10mm screws on either side of the top of the fan cowl. Remove the top radiator hoses. I found that groove joint pliers works well on these.
That's good.
Remove the top section of fan cowl and unplug the fan connectors as you remove it. Now it's time to remove the fan coupling. Wedge a pry bar between the pulley bolts. I used a large adjustable spanner to remove the nut. The nut on the coupling has a reverse thread, so you need to turn it clockwise to loosen it. Here's a quick clip of the belt routing for reference later on. Next, we have to remove all of the hoses from the aluminium hard pipes on the front of the engine. I removed enough to swing the hard pipes up out of the way. The hard pipes are held in place with two P-clamps which are fixed in place with two 10mm nuts, one to the right and one below. The hoses require a bit of prying to remove them from the aluminium pipes. Find the tensioner and use a 21mm socket on a long bar to turn it clockwise. Remove the top alternator bolt which faces forward and two from the bottom which can be accessed from underneath. The bottom bolts are a bit more awkward to get at. You can use a flexi joint and a few extensions to get up at them. Remove the alternator mounting bracket to the right of the alternator. This is held in with two 13mm bolts. This will give you the access you need to pull out the alternator. Locate the positive lead on top of the alternator and pull back the red boot. Then remove the 13mm nut and remove the lead from the alternator. Turns out mine has already had an alternator. The last person to work on it didn't locate the tabs properly and just tightened down the nut. This bent the connector, so I had to pry it off the terminal. Rotate the alternator slightly clockwise to clear the mountings and pull it out far enough to see the rear connector. Push the tab on top of the plug to remove it. Remove the alternator, taking care not to damage the radiator core. Should have made sure I had the right alternator first. Rookie mistake, but I was lucky this time. After a lot of fumbling around with vice grips and grooved pliers, I managed to straighten the positive connector a little. As Haynes would say, installation is the reverse of removal. Attach the rear connector first and then the positive lead. Make sure the locating tabs on the lead are properly seated on the alternator, then tighten down the nut and flip the boot over to cover the terminal. Reinstall the hard pipes and all hoses. Install the fan and remember that the coupling is a reverse thread. When fitting the top fan cowl, remember to slide the fan connector and plug into it before seating the cowl. When refitting the cowl, make sure that it fits onto the bottom section properly. Also check that the center is located properly on the locating pins. Then gently tighten it in place with the two 10mm screws. Both cameras died at this stage, so I didn't get any more footage. To finish the job, you just need to connect your top radiator hoses, fit your intercooler hoses and your engine cover. Finally, you need to fill up your coolant and check for leaks. After that, you can fit your front under tray. Overall, I was dreading this job. While it was straightforward, I took a lot more parts off to gain access than I actually needed to. And because I made more work out of it than I needed to, it took me about 8 hours all in. If I had a guide like this, I'd like to think that it would have taken me maybe 3 or 3.5 hours. If this video was of some use to you, please like, comment and subscribe.